You ever get that pit in your stomach feeling? Like something's off, but you can't explain why? That was me. 4 weeks. Just off. Like I was walking through a hallway where the lights kept flickering, but no one else noticed. I'm Nicole. 34. Marketing manager. I live in Raleigh with my dog Buster and, until recently, my fiancé Adam. We were together 6 years. Engaged for 1. Lived together for 4. Shared everything, groceries, Spotify, Netflix passwords, even one toothbrush once by mistake. Real couple stuff. And then there was Jessa. My best friend since sophomore year at Chapel Hill. Wild, magnetic, unstoppable. If I was the calm in the storm, she was the storm in heels. She'd crash into a room like a tornado and somehow leave it cleaner. Everyone adored her. Including Adam. Which was fine. Until it wasn't. It started small. Subtle. You don't notice cracks until the light hits them just right. I remember this one moment, Saturday morning. Adam and I were making pancakes, laughing about something stupid on TV. He got a text. I didn't mean to glance, but I caught it. From Jessa. Just a laughing emoji. Nothing more. But he smiled. That slow, private kind of smile. The kind you don't usually show unless someone got you. What's funny? I asked, cracking an egg into the bowl. Oh, nothing. Jessa sent me this meme. I'll show you later. He never did. That's when the flickering lights started. But I didn't want to see them. Then came the week Jessa flaked on brunch. Headache, she said. Too many late nights editing a brand shoot. Said it like she was drowning in deadlines. There was something in the way she said it, too fast, too rehearsed. That night, I was on Instagram, half watching reruns, and scrolling like a zombie. I wasn't even thinking about it. And then, boom. There she was. Jessa. At a rooftop bar. Hair curled. Glass of wine in hand. Not alone. The camera wasn't pointed at him. Just a blurred jawline, a familiar sleeve. But I knew that jacket. I'd bought it for Adam last Christmas. The caption said, "Some surprises are worth keeping." I stared at the screen like it was in a foreign language. I actually laughed at first. Out loud. Like no way. I texted her. Me, thought you had a headache. No reply. Not that night. Not the next day either. I didn't bring it up to Adam right away. I waited. Watched. Studied. A week later, we were at the farmer's market. He reached for my hand, but there was a beat of hesitation. Like he forgot to do it until the last second. Like muscle memory, not affection. That night, I checked his phone while he was in the shower. I hate that I did it. I hate more what I found. Text after text. Jessa. Wish you were here. That made me laugh so hard today. Only you get it. I'm glad we talked. Nothing explicitly romantic. But the tone was intimate. Familiar. Like I'd already been replaced, I just hadn't gotten the official memo yet. I didn't cry. Not right then. I copied the messages. Saved them to a folder. Then I deleted the screenshots from his phone, closed the browser, and put everything back the way it was. Because part of me still wasn't ready to know. If I were watching a movie, I'd be yelling at the screen, "Don't trust her." But I wasn't watching. I was starring in the disaster. I waited another week. Then one night, I walked past his computer, and he forgot to lock the screen. Gmail was open. His most recent search? Can you love 2 people at once? So I asked him. Right there in the kitchen. Are you in love with her? He froze. Didn't speak. Didn't move. Then, he nodded. Not dramatic. Not guilty. Just, like it was inevitable. And that's what hurt more than anything. He didn't fight for it. Not even a little. I asked him when it started. He said they got close over the past few months. That she was easy to talk to. That he didn't plan it, didn't mean for it to happen. As if that made it better. 6 years together. A proposal. Wedding folders on Pinterest. And he said it like he'd lost track of time, like oops, sorry, forgot I was engaged. He moved out that weekend. Took a suitcase, his laptop, and Buster's spare leash. Didn't even look back. Jessa texted me the day he left. Jessa, I didn't mean for this to happen, Nick. I'm so sorry. Me, funny. That's exactly what he said. She didn't reply. And that was that. They didn't hide it. 2 weeks later, they were tagged together at a food truck festival. Holding hands. Laughing. Smiling like nothing existed before them. Mutual friends? Most went quiet. A few checked in. The rest probably muted me. At work, people whispered. Jessa had freelanced for my company before, branding work, social media. Everyone adored her. And now I was the cautionary tale. The ex he left. The friend she took from. At the office holiday party, Rachel from HR said, "At least they didn't cheat, right?" I laughed so hard I almost choked on my wine. I quit drinking for a while after that. Not for health. Just because everything tasted bitter. One night, I went downtown to clear my head. I passed that same rooftop bar from the Instagram post. The patio was empty now, twinkly lights glowing overhead. For a second, I thought about walking up, ordering a drink, sitting exactly where they sat. Instead, I walked past. Bought a coffee. Sat alone in the park. Across from me, a group of teenage girls were doing a photo shoot in front of a mural, huge, vibrant, chaotic. One girl directed the others like a film set. I watched them for almost an hour. And I remember thinking, they don't even know yet how fast people change. How fast you can lose the people who promise to love you forever. I looked down at my coffee. Still warm. And I whispered, almost without meaning to. Let them think they won. When I got home, I deleted my social media accounts. Not just deactivated, deleted. I pulled an old notebook from the closet. One I hadn't touched in years. Inside were login details, passwords, drafts of plans, contact names. It wasn't for revenge. Not yet. But I needed to remember who I was before I became Adam's girlfriend. Jessa's sidekick. The background character in someone else's story. I lit a candle. Took out a pen. Opened a fresh page. I didn't write anything, just underlined one sentence I'd written 5 years earlier, during a time I didn't even realize I was preparing for anything. They think I'm quiet. But quiet isn't weak. Quiet listens. Quiet watches. I smiled. Because now, I was listening. They thought I was broken. What they didn't realize is that I stopped playing the same game. When I left, I didn't even pack properly. Just grabbed what I could carry, shoved it into the trunk, and drove until my hands stopped shaking. The rental was 35 minutes outside Raleigh, small, a little sun-bleached, and tucked behind a row of evergreens that didn't let in much light. The porch creaked, the back screen door didn't close all the way, and the only neighbors were a retired couple who spent most of their time watching game shows with the volume too high. It was, in every way, invisible. That suited me fine. The first few days were blurry. Not quite sad, not quite angry, just fog. I cleaned a house that wasn't dirty. I cooked meals I didn't eat. I sat on the porch and stared at nothing. I didn't cry. Not right away. I thought I would, thought the floodgates would open the second I got out of the city. But what happened instead was worse. I went numb. Like my body decided to take a break from feeling altogether. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was loud. Louder than any fight I'd ever had. I could hear my own thoughts too clearly, every conversation, every moment I'd brushed off, every time I'd watched Jessa and Adam laugh together and told myself it was fine. I could hear the exact tone she used when she canceled brunch. Headache, she'd said, voice just a little too casual. Rain check? That lie echoed louder than anything else. I sat on the edge of the rented bed, staring at the floral wallpaper that someone clearly gave up on halfway through, and I said it out loud to the empty room, she lied. She knew exactly what she was doing. I deleted social media the third day. Not just the apps, the accounts. Instagram, gone. Facebook, gone. Even LinkedIn, which felt petty but necessary. I didn't want people tagging me, messaging me, pretending they didn't know what happened when they absolutely did. The silence after that deletion was quiet in a new way. Cleaner. Like scrubbing your skin raw and finding a new layer underneath. On the fifth day, a package showed up at the rental. No name, just the address written in soft cursive on a cream envelope. I opened it without thinking. Inside was tissue paper, soft and crinkled, and nestled in the center was a designer silk scarf, rich navy with thin copper lines, the kind of accessory Jessa would wear when she wanted to look effortlessly put together. The tag read, "To the one who always shows up." No return address. No note. Just that line. I held it for a long time. Sat there in the kitchen, the scarf laid flat across my palms, like it might mean something. Maybe it was a marketing thing, influencer PR sent to the wrong house. Maybe it was a mistake. Or maybe it was for her. Maybe this had been meant for Jessa. Sent to this address by someone who didn't know she didn't live here anymore. I smiled. Folded the scarf neatly. Placed it in the drawer beneath the silverware. I never planned to wear it. But I wasn't throwing it out either. That night, I finally cried. Not the slow, graceful tears you see in movies. No, this was raw. Ugly. I was slicing vegetables and I dropped the knife, and that was it. I started shaking, then screaming, then sobbing so loud I scared myself. I broke a wine glass. I didn't clean it up. For 2 days, it sat there on the kitchen floor, pieces scattered like glitter, a small pool of red still staining the corner. I walked around it every morning like a monument. On the third day, I cleaned it up without a word. The notebook started after that. I found it in a drawer by accident, plain black cover, slightly warped from moisture. I opened it and ran my thumb over the first blank page. I didn't know what I was doing. I just started writing. The first entry was short. Jessa doesn't drink red wine unless she's on a date. She thinks it makes her seem more grown up. That wasn't an observation. That was a fact. She said it herself once, years ago, laughing over a glass of rose. Red wine is for when I want to seem serious, she'd said, scrunching her nose. Guys love it. Page 1. The second entry. Adam's passwords have always been his mother's birthday, capitalized. Except when he's hiding something. Then he uses his old gamer handle, Lancer19. I wrote that down and closed the book. My hands weren't shaking anymore. It wasn't a journal. I wasn't documenting grief. I was keeping inventory. Names, patterns, brands, phrases. The specific wording Jessa used in her apology text. The time Adam left the office before me on Valentine's Day last year, claiming he had to meet a client, but I found a crumpled receipt later for a restaurant I didn't recognize. 2 entrees. 1 bottle of wine. No tip. I didn't plan anything yet. But some part of me was collecting. And that part of me? She was wide awake. A week later, I walked into town. I told myself it was for groceries, but my feet took me somewhere else. A small bookstore on the corner of a side street, the kind with hand-painted windows and a door that stuck when you pushed. A sign said, "We're hiring, part-time. Must be detail-oriented." I went in. The woman behind the counter looked up over her glasses. "Can you alphabetize?" she asked. I nodded. "I'm actually very good at it." She smiled. "Start tomorrow. Cash only. No tax stuff." I worked there 3 days a week. It wasn't about the money. It was about having a reason to be somewhere. I shelved paperbacks. I organized the local author section. I listened. One afternoon, 3 women came in. Young. Loud. Energy like champagne corks. One of them, the tall one with perfect hair, said, "She's totally getting the brand campaign. Her story's perfect. Heartbreak, best friend betrayal, new love, it's like a movie." Another one added, "She said the pitch meeting is next week. They're gonna eat it up. She's the golden girl." I kept shelving books. Didn't blink. Jessa, the third girl, whispered, "She's going to blow up." I smiled to myself. Betrayal and redemption, she'd said. I wondered which one they thought was mine. That night, I had a dream. I was in my old apartment, standing in the doorway, watching Adam and Jessa pack their bags. They were laughing. She looked at me and said, "You were just holding the place for me." I woke up with my hands clenched into fists. The next morning, I ran. I wasn't a runner before. But I laced up my shoes and ran until my lungs burned. Around the neighborhood. Past the overgrown yards and crooked mailboxes. Past the same hardware store I'd walked by a dozen times. This time, I stopped. Someone was painting a mural on the side wall. Big, bold shapes. A woman's face split down the middle, one side calm, one side screaming. I stood there watching for almost an hour. The artist never looked at me. Just kept painting. The brush strokes were sharp. Angry. Focused. The next day, I walked by again. The eyes had changed. One of them was watching. That mural would come in handy later. But right now, it just reminded me that silence isn't always still. Sometimes it sharpens. Sometimes it screams in color. On the 13th day, I got a text from an unknown number. "Unknown, hope you're okay. She's telling people you're not handling it well." No name. No context. I stared at it for 10 minutes. I didn't reply. I didn't delete it either. A few days later, I got a DM on an old, mostly dead email address, the one I used for coupons and spam. The subject line was blank. Inside was a single sentence, "They're not telling you everything." No signature. No attachments. I stared at it, then typed one word in reply, "Who?" No response. But the message stayed with me. It confirmed something I already suspected. People always talk when they think you're gone. And they always say more than they realize. In the bookstore the following afternoon, I sat behind the counter while the bell above the door jingled. A woman came in holding a large iced coffee and wearing that same navy scarf I'd tucked into the drawer. I didn't say anything. Just watched her browse. Before she left, she asked, "Is that mural new?" I nodded. "You should see it after dark. The shadows make it look alive." She tilted her head. "Creepy." I smiled. "Isn't it?" After she left, I opened the notebook again. This time, I added a new entry. Scarves, timing, packages, shadows. Sometimes people send things before they know where they'll land. They weren't watching me anymore. but I was watching them. And I was just getting started. The Instagram story wasn't remarkable until it was. A 12-second clip, now gone, now everywhere. A curated little moment of clinking glasses and exposed collarbones, filmed at some rooftop event with string lights and a signature cocktail called the Sunset Ego. Jessa, radiant in a champagne silk dress that caught the light like water, was laughing at something off camera when the camera panned past her, too fast to be intentional, just slow enough to catch a note written in pen across the dessert menu beside her elbow. "Watch your back, golden girl." Scribbled. Tilted. Just legible. It was the kind of thing that launched gossip blogs into overdrive. "Anonymous threat or bad branding joke?" one headline asked. Another went full conspiracy. "Is the internet's favorite betrayal queen being targeted?" I didn't send that note. But I knew who had. And I knew where they got the phrase. Page 17 of my notebook, middle margin, right below a printout of Jessa's latest campaign deck. Jessa once called herself a golden girl with teeth. She likes being underestimated. She counts on it. I circled it twice. The blog post went viral within 2 hours. The brand quietly pulled back their press release the next morning. No formal announcement, just a broken link and a lot of public silence. That silence was louder than a scandal. And just like that, the cracks in her polish began to show. 3 days after the note story blew up, I posted a comment on a local branding agency's public Instagram thread, not under my name, but under an old burner account I'd used back when I was still testing out freelance designs. I left it beneath a reel celebrating their recent influencer partnerships. The comment said, "Interesting how some pitches look familiar, almost like déjà vu from 2022, winky face." It wasn't liked. It wasn't shared. But it was seen. Claire texted me that night, "She's panicking. Thinks I'm feeding gossip blogs." I said I wasn't. Should I be worried? I wrote back, "No. Let her spin. Wind helps the spiral." She didn't reply. But a few days later, she DM'd me a screenshot of a Twitter thread dragging Jessa's signature content strategy as a ripoff of someone else's work. Claire's work, obviously. She added, "This one's going to sting." In the background of all this, Adam remained quiet. His name hadn't appeared anywhere, but his company was knee-deep in internal policy cleanup after a small data breach led to a few client receipts leaking online. One in particular made the rounds: dinner for two, charged to the company, labeled as consultant dinner. It lined up with the exact night Jessa had posted a blurry, romantic rooftop selfie, the same outfit she'd worn when she was supposedly helping Adam brainstorm a team retreat. Page 26 of the notebook, client dinner. September 18th. Receipt total $476. Table for two. Company card. No client listed. Above it, a screenshot of her Instagram caption from that night, "So proud of him. Big moves on the horizon." I highlighted it in orange. Even people who wanted to root for her started backing away. Jessa had built her brand on radical transparency, but nothing exposes a lie faster than claiming honesty. A few minor influencers unfollowed her. A stylist reposted an old story with the caption, "People can steal your look but not your originality." She didn't tag Jessa, but the internet connects dots like bloodhounds. And still, I waited. Just close enough to feel the heat, never close enough to be burned. Then came the scarf. It reappeared in a YouTube vlog filmed by a lifestyle creator who had no idea what she was holding. She opened a PR box on camera, pulled out a designer scarf, navy and copper, just like the one that had arrived by mistake at my rental weeks ago, and smiled for the camera. Apparently this is part of a limited collab, but the brand asked not to tag anyone yet. Something about a soft rollout? I paused the video and opened my notebook to the sticky tab marked Timeline, Scarves. I added a line underneath the others, PR box leaked. Someone broke embargo. Curious how the wrong address got that early sample. I wasn't finished with the scarf. But it had served its first purpose, the hint of miscommunication, the shadow of mishandled trust. That night, I went for a walk. The mural had been finished for weeks, but it looked different in the moonlight. The woman's split face now had small tears in the screaming side, like someone had painted over cracks that kept reappearing. The artist wasn't there anymore, but someone had spray-painted new text beneath the chin, "Don't blink. You'll miss the warning." I sat across the street and watched people pass by. Most didn't look twice. A few snapped photos. One little girl stared at it for a full minute and said, "She looks like she's yelling secrets." Her mom tugged her away before I could hear anything else. A few days later, I mailed something. An envelope. No return address. Inside, a photo I'd taken 2 years ago. Jessa and I, laughing in a restaurant bathroom mirror. I'd circled her necklace in red pen and written across the bottom, "You wore it to the proposal too." I didn't send it to her. I sent it to a gossip account I knew loved callbacks and clues. The post was up within an hour, captioned, "Same girl, different mirror. Wonder what she sees now." I closed the app and made tea. The next morning, Jessa posted a series of stories saying she was taking space, that she felt violated by fake news, and that people who act like friends but want your fall, well, karma gets them eventually. Claire messaged me, "She's spiraling. We meet for drinks, she just stares at her phone and says, 'I know someone's doing this to me.'" I wrote back, "Maybe she should stop giving them reasons." Later that week, I visited the bookstore on my day off. It was quiet. Rainy. The kind of day where the air feels full and heavy. I brought my notebook and sat at the back, flipping through the pages with the kind of reverence people usually reserve for prayer. Page 22 had a quote pulled from one of Jess's pitch decks, "When women reclaim their narrative, the world listens." I'd drawn a line from that quote to a footnote, original phrase lifted from Claire's proposal, dated 5 months earlier. Metadata confirmed. The notebook was no longer just a record. It was a weapon. Not explosive, surgical. Then, like the third act of a well-rehearsed play, Jessa walked in. No warning. No dramatics. Just the bell over the door and her silhouette in the frame. She wore a long coat despite the heat and kept her sunglasses on even when the clouds outside darkened the room. She wandered toward the fiction section, didn't pick up a single book. After a few minutes, she made her way to the counter. "I didn't expect to see you here," she said, her voice brittle. I didn't look up from my notebook. No one ever does. She glanced at the open page. "Is that yours?" I turned it slightly toward her. Every line. Her hand hovered near a stack of bookmarks. "You've been hearing things?" I finally looked up, met her eyes. "You know what's worse than being talked about?" I asked. She waited. "Being forgotten." Her expression shifted. Not panic, something worse. Uncertainty. Like she wasn't sure how much of her past had become her present. "I feel like I'm losing control of everything," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "Maybe you were never in control. Maybe you were just the loudest voice in the room." She pulled her coat tighter. "If something's happening, I need to know." I closed the notebook, slow and deliberate. "Then I guess you're not in control anymore." She stared at me for a long time. The way people stare at a locked door they used to have the key for. Her mouth opened, then closed again. No words came. I picked up a pen and scribbled something on the inside flap of the notebook. Just enough for her to notice but not enough for her to read. "What are you writing?" she asked, voice tight. I smiled. "Inventory." She left without another word. After the door shut, I flipped back to the last page and added a line beneath her name. "She's cracking. Still doesn't know who's holding the mirror." Good. I closed the book. The pieces were in place. And she had no idea which ones were about to collapse. It was the live stream that broke her. I wasn't even watching when it happened. Someone sent me the clip afterward, a screen recording with the chat exploding beside her face in real time. Jessa had gone live to set the record straight, according to the caption, though what followed was anything but straight. Her voice cracked 3 minutes in. She stumbled over her words. Someone asked about Adam, and her face dropped completely. She tried to pivot, started reading from some pre-written statement, but the comments kept flooding in, asking about the plagiarism, the receipts, the podcast. She read one that said, "You built your brand on borrowed bricks," and froze. Just froze. Then she reached off camera, and the stream went black. It lasted less than 9 minutes. But it felt like an exorcism. Claire texted me the same night, half horrified, half thrilled. She melted. Full-on meltdown. "You're the ghost that buried her. And I love it." I didn't respond right away. I stared at the message for a long time, thinking about that word, ghost. It wasn't wrong. I had disappeared, sure. But I didn't haunt her from some shadowy corner. I watched her from the mirror. The one she'd painted over, cracked, tried to throw out. But she couldn't stop looking. And eventually, it reflected her right back. 2 days after the livestream, a headline landed with the final thud. Brand drops influencer after ethics scandal, source says the email was brutal. It wasn't just brutal. It was surgical. I knew because I wrote it. Anonymous tip, carefully documented. Source links. Screenshot backups. A subtle nudge about the internal zero-tolerance clause buried in the contract terms, a clause I'd flagged in a job interview months prior, when the HR rep let slip they had no patience for messy PR partnerships. That was all I needed. I planted the seeds back then, months before the scandal broke. It was always about time. Adam, meanwhile, went silent. No social media. No LinkedIn. His company issued a bland one-line statement about leadership transitions, and someone I used to know confirmed he'd been quietly let go. The consulting role he updated his profile with? Not real. Not paid. A placeholder for failure. But here's the part they didn't see coming. Claire thought she was part of it. And technically, she was, in the way a chess piece is part of the game, but never holding the board. She gave me the information I needed. Sent me old pitch decks. Verified dates. She believed I was working with her, to expose the plagiarism, the theft, the way Jessa had climbed by stepping on our backs. What Claire didn't know was that I'd been documenting her, too. Not to ruin her. Just to insulate myself. I needed to be sure that if anyone tried to twist this, my hands stayed clean. That meant controlling the leak path. The gossip blog posts she thought were hers? I seeded them first. The podcast interview request she got from a media contact named Liz? That was me, using an old Gmail alias I'd created years ago for freelance outreach. I set the trail. I chose the questions. I sent the podcaster the files anonymously, flagged the quotes that would spark the most discussion, and ended the message with, "Check metadata on these. She's not the original author." When the episode aired, Claire thought she'd made it happen. Let her. She got what she wanted, recognition, sympathy, a little moral high ground. I got what I wanted, leverage, a diversion, and a clean exit. That exit started the day I opened the safe beneath the bookstore counter and took the USB out. Not because I needed it anymore. Because I was ready for someone else to use it. I didn't take it home. I walked 2 blocks, turned right on 6th, and dropped it into a padded envelope addressed to a journalist at a mid-tier investigative media outlet. Not the big ones. The kind that published deep-dive exposés no one expected, and that always cited sources they couldn't disclose. Inside the envelope, I included a printed note. You're looking at the wrong timelines. Start with September 18th. And ask her where the scarf came from. I didn't sign it. I didn't have to. When I returned to the bookstore, I didn't go back to the counter. I walked to the corkboard where people left business cards, notes, event flyers. At the top was a sign someone had hand-drawn in thick black Sharpie. Found stories. Take one, leave one. I reached into my bag, pulled out the final page from my notebook, the one I'd torn days earlier, and pinned it dead center. It said, "They thought I went silent. I was just listening harder." No name. No date. Just that. I turned and left before anyone saw me. Later that week, I saw her, Jessa, in the wild. She was outside a coffee shop, no makeup, sunglasses on, hair pulled back in a way that made her look 10 years older. She stood by the window, reading something on her phone with a clenched jaw and a look that said she was waiting for a storm that had already passed, and still drenched her. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did and pretended not to. Either way, I walked by without a glance. She turned. I didn't. That was the last time. And the mural? The one that had followed me through this whole damn thing? It had changed again. Someone, not me, had added one final detail. The face was still split, one side soft and unbothered, the other screaming in color. But now, just beneath the chin, someone had stenciled the words. Silence isn't weakness. It's the sound before the crack. It stayed there for weeks. Eventually, they painted over the whole thing. New mural. New artist. But I still remember the face. And I still have the notebook. Not because I need it. Because it reminds me what people say when they think you're not listening.